You guys remember what I said at the end of the last video? Quick side note, I'm going to try some new style of content because my brain compels me to do so. Variety is the spice of life after all. Yeah, this was what I was referring to. I love challenge videos. It's always enjoyable watching people beat different games with specific builds, weapons, or just very weird playstyles. And while I was working on my Army of Two video, I got the sudden urge to try and give this kind of content a try. And what a better game to try this on than one of my favorite games, Fallout New Vegas. It's also not a fast-paced game. But seeing as how seemingly everything's been done, I mean, what did I add? And that's when I looked down and noticed I had two options. Left leg or right leg. Which then sparked a question in my mind. Can I beat Fallout New Vegas with all my busted legs? Well, gamers, let's find out.
From where you're kneeling must seem like an 18-karat run of an 18-karat... What in the goddamn?
Now you're probably asking, if this guy's crippled, how is he using his legs? To put simply, I'm using my left arm to lift my left leg while using my right arm to make sure I don't slip down into the floor and starve. And I'd had to beat the entire game with just this setup. We begin our journey waking up at Doc Mitchell's house and we're already starting to see problems. He wants me to tell him my name, and of course I don't have the typing abilities on a controller, so the challenge is over. Thanks for watching. Only kidding. Drastic measures call for drastic causes as I slam my heel into my keyboard. Welcome to the world, which to those who aren't very fluent in Cripple, it roughly translates to paraplegic feces. Next up is character creation, and after about an eternity of trying to turn my controller into an aerobic stepper plate, I finally realized this challenge was going to be a nightmare. After going through an existential crisis on what I looked like, Doc Mitchell forces a recovering handicapped person to stand up. I then crip walked over to the vigor tester where I dump all of my special points into strength, mostly because I was focusing on a melee build for this run, and then some intelligence for some extra XP, finished off Doc Mitchell's interrogation, got lost in his house for a second, and I was finally set free. I eventually drunkenly stumbled into the saloon where I'd run into Cloudy Frown, where she would then offer to teach me how to survive. During this whole section I realized how borderline impossible this challenge might have been when using the default control, so I decided to change them around to make it somewhat more bearable. And because I'm a man of integrity, my foot's the size of Antarctica and the pause button is very small, I did in fact have to use my finger to access the settings. Rendering this entire challenge failed. But I mean, I did still continue because I thought it'd be fun content, so... Also, I set this game to very easy because I need all the help I can get. Me, in a fit of excitement, shot exactly one bottle, and like the jackass that I inherited from my father, I ended up punching the rest of them off the fence before leaving Sunny Smiles to bake in the sun. I think she's still standing there, actually. A settings change and a few crashes later, and I was off to Primm. Along the way, I decided to try out the new controls on some powder gainers and understood immediately that it was all pointless and I should just rely on VATS. So, in hindsight, I pretty much failed this challenge for fucking nothing. Awesome. I also thought the attack button that I remapped would work in VATS, and when I thought I wasn't hitting it, I just decided to go ahead and put up an overlay to make sure I'm hitting it. Only about 3 minutes into this fucking video is a train wreck, oh my god. Eventually I was able to cha-cha slide my way into the Bison Steve Hotel in Primm and come face to face with some more goons. I showed them my interpretive dance moves, but they interpreted it the wrong way, so I had to kill them. I untied Deputy Beagle and I was planning to originally do the sheriff quest, but my arm realized that it was kinda tired and so I just left. Next up, Nipton. Along the way I was confronted by a few rapscallions that decided to get loose. Foot loose, as a matter of fact. So I decided to kick off my Sunday shoes by planting my machete into their hearts. I then came face to face with Sasuke Uchiha from the hit PS2 series Naruto. He started screaming at me about winning a lottery, and in a state of fatigue I just helped him reunite with the rest of his clan. Once I finally got into Nipton, I was belittled by Caesar's Discord mods and was asked to use my nitro to boost their server. I told them to kick rocks and then I left. Not too long after, I was then jumped in the hills by the American healthcare system for being disabled and relying on cheap insurance. Spoiler alert, they almost killed me. I then hit the stanky leg all the way to Novak. It was here I thought, you know, having a companion would be nice. And so I stole the safe key and the bill of sale, watched Jeannie May get dusted, and recruited my boy, Boone. I just figured he'd be useful in a longer range fight with the sniper and whatnot, you know. The two of us then hit the Charleston all the way to Boulder City, where we'd come across Jessup, one of the great Klondike bars that helped Benjamin put me in the dirt. I said hello with my machete and then was called a meanie by the rest of the great cons. As I stepped outside, Boone was unfortunately gunned down in the streets, rendering him unconscious. But don't worry, he was still useful as I turned his unconscious body into a human shield while I tried to retreat. Boone and I then ambushed the rest of the cons, me going so far as to strip down to my undies and turn my controller into Just Dance Matt, rescued the NCR soldiers, and began river dancing towards New Vegas. Now, all the way up to this point, I've been trying to figure out how to get into the strip, and as it stood, I had pretty much 3 options. The first option would be obtaining a fake passport, but that also kind of requires some extra work for the kings, and my arms are already feeling a little sore and tired, so that one's off the table. Option 2 requires us to have 80 skill points in science, which I did consider when studying, but that's only because I thought it was 80 in repair, not science. Which leaves us with our third and final option, paying 2,000 caps. Thankfully, when scavenging for meds, my legs also picked up some extra stuff, which is so whew. Finally, getting onto the strip, I found young Ben, who was able to woo me up to a presidential suite. He also promised to meet me up there momentarily, but unfortunately, he did not follow suit. Instead, this asshole shadow-cloned himself into 4 different guys with weapons, leaving Boone and I outnumbered and, because we're in a casino hotel, unarmed. Things were really looking grim. So anyways, we left the tops and headed for the Lucky 38 where we'd start meeting up with Mr. House. The funny computer guy tasked me with fetching his shiny Pringles chip from the fortification hill, and along the way, me and Boone end up in a bit of a squabble with some Legion members. After the dust settled, I realized that with Boone following me around, it would be on site with the Legion. And quite frankly, I don't feel like fighting my way through the fort. So I told Boone to take a hike and merely rocked my way back to the 188 trading post so I can recruit the best companion ever, Veronica. I knew I made the right choice as soon as I saw her piece up a feral ghoul. Anyways, I got to the fort, got the chip from Caesar Salad who wanted me to destroy everything in a bunker nearby, and I entered what I consider 1 out of 3 of the hardest parts I faced during this run. Now look, the objective is fairly simple. Just take the platinum chip to a console, hit a couple of buttons, and leave. Unfortunately, today's special involves turrets, and the room we need to get to is having a buy 1 get 2 for free. Now these things shoot pretty fast, and truth be told, I'm not very quick on my feet as you might have suspected. But after a few trial and errors, I thought, hey, why don't I just send Veronica in? And thus our punchy companion ran in and destroyed exactly 1 turret before slipping on an ice cube and leaving her unconscious, leaving me to defeat 2 more. The original plan was to use Veronica as a distraction while I go in and fillet the other turrets. But since she's a KO'd, I had to sit back and ponder what my next move was going to be. And so I ran in, hoping I'd be able to kill the first turret and a few VATS attacks before retreating back. But wouldn't you know it, a 0% chance to hit when I'm this close to it. Thankfully, I have the rare ability to think on my foot, and so I slammed my foot into the square button numerous times before crouching down and sneaking away. I healed up, ran back in towards the second turret, hoping I didn't fumble, and then watched Veronica sleep as my arm started to feel like it was about to fall off. And, you know, insert the platinum chip and upgrade the Securitrons and all that other good stuff. After leaving the bunker, I had Benny crucified before returning to Mr. House, where he then directed me to my next destination, Nellis Air Base. Right outside Nellis, I made a deal with George, and he gave me tips on how to avoid the mortars. But instead of reaching the airbase, I reached my last safe position after being blown to smithereens. Second time around, I told George to eat shit and beelined it to the fence. In doing so, the boomers mocked me by crippling one of my legs. So I slept in one of their beds and helped Pearl introduce herself to my machete, while Veronica served a 3-piece KFC meal to Jack and Loyal. I returned to the house and let him know the retirement village went up in flames and was then asked to check in with our neighbors across the street, the Emeritus. I'm gonna be honest, nothing really happened here. I stole Ficino's journal, burned some guns, killed the leaders, took a few days to rest my arm. You know, the whole shtick. And then I was tasked to kill the Brotherhood of Steel. Now this is a tall order considering the Brotherhood are packing heavy firepower and armor. I couldn't exactly square dance with everyone into the afterlife, so I went with the option B. Self-destruct the entire bunker. I know, she'd make it a lot easier to get into the bunker. But I just couldn't have her there while I was destroying her friends. Goodbye, Veronica. And then I rehired Boone. Now to actually complete our objective, we're gonna need to pickpocket 3 keycards from the top brass. And because my sneak is kinda low and I can't really quick save and quick load on a controller, save stumming wasn't really seen as a viable option. Or was it? You see, while I wasn't able to quit save and load until I successfully pickpocketed all the cards, Fallout New Vegas has this wonderful feature of saving anytime you go through a door. So I hatched the brilliant idea of steal keycard, then leave and come right back. If the pickpocket was unsuccessful, then I attack and get myself killed, forcing me to be reloaded back to my last save, aka back at the door. It took a few retries per keycard, a lot less than I thought it was going to be actually, but in the end we were eventually able to pull it off successfully. But hold on to your hat folks, cause this little caper ain't over yet as we still gotta initiate self-destruct. I dreaded this part since I can't fight everyone and my tiptoeing around skills are pretty weak. But luckily, By the grace of multiple playthrough knowledge and 95% luck, I managed to escape by the skin of my rubber tires without having to stop and turn my camera, all in one go. I mean, granted, I almost died twice, but hey, I'm not complaining. And as the old saying goes, if you love something, set it free. Goodbye, old friend. I finally returned to the talking computer man only for him to unreturn me to the Eldorado substation. Along the way, I found a super sledge stuck on a Legion assassin. Don't ask why he was alive, just know he lost his license to exist. I powered the substation and prepared myself to book it when bullets started flying, but then I remembered the NC really are incompetent, seeing as how I casually just strolled right out. But enough about all of that. It is now time for the Battle of Hoover Dam. Yeah, I just let Boone and the Secure Johns do all the heavy lifting while I did a little light cleaning anytime someone got close. I showed a couple of NCR soldiers a magic trick. One guy's mind exploded, literally, and the other guy fainted from excitement. Boone was not happy. And so finally, we arrive to not only the final stretch of the game, but the third hardest part in the run. The Legate's camp. In a moment of confusion, I thought I was at the mall, seeing as not one but two guys would spot me a mile away and rush me down to try and sell me their product. And as any good patron would, I killed them. In a chance to instill fear and intimidation, I moonwalked my way up towards Legate Lanius, letting him know that I mean business. I got my back blown out. Yeah, to spare you guys unnecessary details, I tried a couple more times and then gave up. My arm was too tired. I took a few days to rest my arm, and when I came back, I still had nothing. After seeing no success with the super sledge, I decided to switch it up and try out the enemy's ballistic fist. It didn't do as much damage, but it would allow me to attack faster and more often in VATS. After a couple attempts, I started to see the potential with this weapon. But then I realized my other problem. I don't have many healing items. Sure, I could use the fruit and water left behind by the Legion corpses, but I need something instant, aka more stim packs. Before being locked into the camp, I lured and killed off some CC's Pizza employees before returning to the dam. I tried to scavenge for some extra stims on any corpse that wasn't despawned, but instead what I found was the golden ticket to finishing the run. Allow me to introduce to you the Thermic Lance. Not only is the damage good, but the DPS is also nice. So nice that you can just hold the attack button down and enemies will walk themselves to the gates of hell. But wait, there's more. Call now and you'll get your Thermic Lance with a bonus effect of ignoring the enemy's damage threshold and damage resistance. This was it. No longer did I need to worry about simple medicine when I now had Eden's apple firmly within my grasp. And now, with all that in hand, it was time. And then warrior Vegas, did you carry yourself for battle? If so, you cannot truly be of that city of cowards. Is all I could let out like I was in a top-tier anime. I threatened to take his mask as a trophy, and as he was trying to respond, I cut him off by popping some drugs. Psycho, to be exact, for some extra damage. Pulling the blade of the east out of his ass, Lanius charges downhill at Mach 5 speed. With my turtle-like reflexes, I swiftly activated VATS and made my selection. Damn, I thought. I've never actually used this weapon before, so I wasn't aware of how much it ate up in AP. And with a single hit... Lanius was already on his back foot. Usually it'd take like 2 or 3 swings from the other weapons, but this was on a whole nother level. Lanius quickly retreats, blade tucked between his cheeks. Praetorians begin rushing us down, but this time I was ready. I sat firm and put the pedal to the plastic and was able to deal more damage as they kept walking into me. Not the outcome I expected, but a welcome one nonetheless. I sustained some owies and jabbed myself with some stim packs before watching a dog use his heelys to roll backwards. Suddenly, an explosion. It was Bryson Tiller, aka Legate Lanius. He's back and he's better, and he wants me bad as ever, and he doesn't want me to let up. By aimlessly throwing grenades at us, he ended up killing some of his own men. One grenade even landed at my feet, but I remained sitting there 10 toes and 4 wheels down, unfazed by this uncouth attack. And finally, when the dust settled, Legate Lanius is down, but we're not done yet. Another group of Legionnaires approach our position. I take one out while mercilessly getting dogged out. New Vegas almost bugged on me and I thought I was finished here. But in a moment's notice, I regained control of my character and slammed my foot on the brake to pop more stims. Boone clutched up and killed the second guy while I reoriented around and get my bearings. The third guy swings his hammer but instead was stunned to death. There was still a shooter on the hill, but I couldn't risk running up there to dispatch of him. I just needed to get to the exit of the camp. I made a break for the exit. Boone, aka 8-Ball, laying down some covering fire on my left flank. Halfway through, I stopped to use my final stim pack. Reaching the exit, another explosion. It's the NCR's very own General Oliver. I poked him to death, spoke to House one last time, and I technically didn't beat New Vegas with my crippled leg, you know, because the whole settings thing back at the beginning. Yeah. Could I have gone without changing any of the settings at the beginning? Maybe. But seeing as how hard it was to simply hit the right trigger button at the beginning, I couldn't help but feel like I'd be stonewalled to the point that the challenge just kind of becomes unfun, and I'd just give up on the video as a whole. I know this isn't my normal content, but like I said earlier, my brain had the idea come up and I just went with it. And don't worry, I'm still gonna make the other videos where I talk about things that I do enjoy. Little spoiler alert, I got 2 in the works. In conclusion, this is the end of the video. Okay, bye.